There's two things that are really that these results are really telling us. This part of the zone has really good continuity. We're getting very consistent grades over consistent widths over big distances, and I think that that's not, let's call it, atypical in low sulfidation epithermal systems. It's something that's unique here, and I think that that's something that's really important, is it, because that bodes well when you start to put together a resource and you have to go mine it. Sometimes low sulfidation epithermal systems can be a little bit dispersed, right? You get high grade hole and then a lower grade hole, and we seem to be getting pretty consistent, very good grades in there. The other thing is that it keeps telling us that there's more to drill here. We need to keep expanding it at depth. We need to keep chasing it to the northeast. Right now we have two rigs on site. One of the rigs is drilling to the northeast. We're doing another 50-meter step out from hole 88 to see if we can stretch the zone even further to the northeast. I think the one thing that's unique about West Point in context of the gold price is that our project is a bit unique. We're one of the few projects that have the potential to be sort of a plus 2 gram open pit in the lower 48. Plus $4,000 gold will make those economics, when we get there, potentially spectacular. Even at a lower gold price, the Tyro main zone works, which is an advantage. However, I don't think investors have to worry about a lower gold price in the near future.
For disclosure purposes, our site does not make recommendations for purchases or sale of stocks, services, or products. Nothing on our site or this podcast should be construed as an offer or solicitation to buy or sell products or securities. All investing involves risk and possible losses. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. For disclosure purposes, West Point Gold Corp is a paid-for client on the investorideas.com website.
Derek, it's great to have you back on the show. We have fantastic drill results to talk about that you just came out with today for 4 drill holes at the Gold Chain project. Do you want to just quickly give an overview for investors that haven't read that press release yet?
For those that have been following along and those that haven't, we discovered the Northeast Tyro, this higher grade zone at Gold Chain within the Tyro main zone, sort of mid last year. Had some very good results then, and it had some good follow-up holes, some of them coming out as most before this release late December. And basically what we've been doing with those results is steadily expanding that zone, and these results have done that again. We've gone and expanded the zone again in a couple of different ways. Notably, the headline hole 87 was 27 meters at 9.5 grams, with it including 13 meters at 18 grams. A spectacular hole, and that's actually an up dip drill hole. So we drilled it above those original 47, 48, 49 holes between those holes and surface in an effort to expand the highest grade portion of the zone, and we were successful into doing that. Additionally, we drilled hole 88, another expansion of the zone, and this is to the northeast. So this is at depth. The furthest northeast hole we've drilled at Tyro, and again hit spectacular holes, 44 meters at 5 grams. Within that, 18 meters at 12. And I think that's that those including numbers are really important, because that's one of the key things we see about this Tyro northeast zone is while we get these big wide zones of mineralization, we tend to get significant plus 10-gram zones within that, which obviously is very exciting and bodes well for the resource potential. Holes 85 and 86 similarly expanded the zone, but these two holes stretched it to depth. 85 returning 29 meters at 5 grams, and hole 86 returning 36 meters at 2. And so again, another set of good holes, expanding the Tyro northeast, up dip, down dip, and to the northeast.
Do you want to just talk a little bit about like the step outs? Because I know you had some great results last year as well that you came out with for some of your assays on some of the holes there, of like, what's this telling you about the system so far?
I think there's two things that these results are really telling us. This part of the zone has really good continuity. We're getting very consistent grades over consistent widths over big distances, and I think that that's not, let's call it, atypical in low sulfidation epithermal systems. It's something that's unique here, and I think that that's something that's really important, is it, because that bodes well when you start to put together a resource and you have to go mine it. Sometimes low sulfidation epithermal systems can be very, not nuggety, but the grade can be a little bit dispersed, right? You get high grade hole and then a lower grade hole, and we seem to be getting pretty consistent, very good grades in there. The other thing is that it keeps telling us that there's more to drill here. We need to keep expanding it at depth. We need to keep chasing it to the northeast. Right now we have two rigs on site. One of the rigs is drilling to the northeast. We're doing another 50-meter step out on from hole 88 to see if we can stretch the zone even further to the northeast. And then, on top of that, obviously I said we need to once we get the pads built, we'll be drilling underneath this zone as well and trying to stretch it to depth as much as we can.
For investors that maybe are new to the story, I know that you're doing a 15,000-meter drill program with some of these assays that are out. Where are you at in that 15,000 meters? Like how much is left for 2026 that you guys are still drilling?
We drilled about 4,000 meters into that program, roughly speaking. So 11,000 meters left to drill. And with 2 rigs on site, that'll take us till May or June.
If you have these results at only 4,000 meters, I'm excited to hear what's next for the next 11,000.
Well, I think that's a great point. And while we are having a lot of success at Northeast Tyro, one of the big things that we're after with this program in 2026 is not just to continue to expand Northeast Tyro and prove up, get that to and get the Tyro main zone to a resource. We're also testing some other targets on the property. And one of those targets is where the other drill rig on site is, which is Tyro South. And Tyro South is, the Tyro main zone is a 1 kilometer extension. Northeast Tyro is about a 250 to 300 meter zone within that. But Tyro South is its own 1 kilometer target in a very similar setting to the Tyro main zone. And so we're putting our first holes, putting some holes into that, and we'll see what we get. It could really prove this to be a system with significant potential.
Obviously, these, like you said, this bodes very well for a resource, putting out your maiden resource this year. But for investors or following again that might have missed our first podcast of some of the goals and milestones that you're looking to achieve for 2026, and obviously that being one of them.
Yeah, so big things for 2026 for us is a maiden resource at Tyro main zone. That will include the Northeast Tyro and these holes that we've just drilled. The other key catalyst, obviously, we're going to keep drilling this 15,000 meters. So one of the other goals, besides proving a resource with that 15,000 meters, is to take one of the other 5 or 6 targets we have on the property and start and see if we can convert that from a target to something that has resource potential. I guess effectively make another discovery on the property. In the effort of advancing the Tyro main zone, you should see some initial metallurgy from us on the Tyro main zone here in Q1. And then, lastly, we're continuing to advance our Jefferson Canyon project that we're partnered with Kinross on, and hopefully we'll see some initial drilling from that sometime this year as well.
And for the Jefferson Canyon, that is looking at getting permits going as well for 2026.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping.
I feel like your gold chain project is doing very, very well. So it feels like everything else is blue sky potential with all your other projects as well.
Yeah, I think the opportunity is the way I try to position the story and the way I think it is even what we've drilled at Tyro is, I'm the CEO, so color me biased, but even what we've drilled at the Tyro main zone, the stock's undervalued, and there's an opportunity to any of these other targets that we hit, that's blue sky. Anything that we hit, anything work we do on any of our other projects, that's all blue sky for investors beyond what we're focused on right here.
We obviously have to talk about again, as we did last time, the price of gold. I don't know if there's been a better time to be a commodities investor, especially a precious metals investor. Do you want to talk, obviously, again, speculation, but the potential of West Point Gold with your projects in hand and these prices that we're seeing in gold?
Well, the gold prices definitely helps. It definitely helps the sector and space and momentum. I think the one thing that's unique about West Point in context of the gold price is that our project is a bit unique. We're one of the few projects that have the potential to be sort of a +2 gram open pit in the lower 48. Plus $4,000 gold will make those economics when we get there potentially spectacular. Even at a lower gold price, the Tyro main zone works, which I think is an advantage. However, I don't think investors have to worry about a lower gold price in the near future. Between the rate at which governments around the world, including the U.S., are spending and racking up debt. That's been good for the gold price. The political instability, and just as recently as the U.S. invading Venezuela over the weekend and capturing Maduro, I think there's no shortage of catalysts for the gold price to be higher and maybe even much higher than where we are now.
I 100% agree. Derek, as we come to the close, I would love for you to just give investors of what they can keep an eye out for. And I know we're coming up to conference season in Vancouver very soon. Will investors be able to find you at VRIC or Metals Forum, or where's the best place that they can reach out here?
Yeah, so we'll be at Metal Investors Forum in around VRIC. Feel free to reach out through the website and generally get back to people if you have any questions about the project or what we've been drilling or where we're going. And we're around and available. So just looking ahead, obviously more drill results that we'll have. We've sort of always guided that would have them every 2 to 3 weeks, and so kind of that's a pace that investors can expect to see, especially with two rigs turning. And then the second is obviously that allergy, and then maybe a little bit further out the maiden resource.
And when we last talked, you talked about you have the potential of a lot of those warrants converting. I'm assuming as your price has appreciated quite a bit in your stock over the last month, do you see that as a potential of coming in sooner versus later for financing for your company?
We've basically seen a steady flow of warrants over the last, call it 3 4 months. As soon as kind of in Q3 or in Q4, sorry, we had over $3 million exercised, 3.2 million. And so our cash balance is actually, yeah, we finished the year with more cash than we started Q3 Q4 with, which is what gave us the confidence to add a second rig. And so we're continuing to see that come in. It's a pretty steady flow. It's not, it's kind of one or two series of warrant exercises a day, one or two warrant sets a day. And so if we keep up that steady flow, it puts us in an enviable position. We're kind of flat cash and drilling with and turning and have two rigs turning. I think that's a good spot to be as we put out results.